It is no secret that today's world prioritizes different things than in the past, from developments in technology to the way familial roles work within society. Some of these changes in priority make sense as we have made many advancements in society, which has greatly altered the way many things are done compared to the past. However, there are some things that happen today that make no sense whatsoever. One of these things is how much we pay our teachers. Teachers have been leaving the profession at an alarming rate, and the main reason for this is the pay. It wouldn't be inaccurate to say that teachers leaving lowers the quality of the school system. A 2020 Stanford study shows that financial anxiety leads to worse performance in the classroom and is directly correlated with teachers leaving the profession. Why are we paying the people who shape the next generation of our country and our world such a small amount in comparison to other jobs within society? There are many problems with the teaching profession, but the main thing pushing people away from becoming teachers is the pay. There are readily available solutions to help remedy this problem, but the state of South Carolina has been reluctant to make these things happen. How bad is it really for teachers? In 2022, the Economic Policy Institute found that teachers make 26.4% less than other similarly educated individuals. 26.4% less. If that seems like a lot to you, you'd be right because it is. To make matters even worse for teachers in South Carolina, DataPandas shows that the salary for teachers in the state of South Carolina ranks only 36th in the country, while World Population Review ranks South Carolina as 26th in cost of living. That Stanford study that I mentioned before showed that 48% of teachers reported being frequently anxious about their current financial situation, compared to only 17% of other employed adults. Nearly half of all the teachers were anxious about their finances, while less than 20% of everybody else. This study also found that these reports were representative of most every background, including age, race, gender, specialty area, and years of experience. However, it was shown that the younger the participant, the more likely they were to show higher levels of anxiety. This has led to negative attitudes about the job, worse attendance, and teachers were 50% more likely to leave the district within 2 years after taking the survey. On top of the financial pressure, according to Emily Summers, teachers face around 17 and a half hours of unpaid overtime per week. These problems, along with other issues such as behavior within the class, highlight the main problems with the teaching profession today. All of these things cause stress for teachers, especially the financial aspect of the job, which in turn impacts the classroom because they aren't able to fully focus on the classroom when they're worried, even subconsciously, about these things. To recap the problems teachers face, there aren't enough teachers in the workforce, mainly because of the pay. This comes from both teachers leaving and not enough new teachers to replace the ones leaving the profession. This has led to the decline of the public education system over the past few decades, which will create a disparity between the parents who can afford to put their children through private school and those who cannot. There are a few root causes that have led to teachers being paid less than their peers in other areas of the workforce. One of these is the perception around the job. According to a teacher in Lexington School District 2, it sometimes feels like they are running a daycare and have to deal more with behavioral problems than actually teaching the kids. Also, according to Emily Summers, teaching is seen as a woman-dominated job, and so teachers get paid less because of it. In that same article, Summers writes that there has been a push towards performance-based incentives, which sounds like a great idea, but not all teachers get the same quality of students, which would mean better pay for some, but not for the rest. Who is affected by these issues? Well, to start, teachers and their families are the most impacted. Teachers may not be bringing in enough money to support the family, which may lead to financial hardships if there isn't another source of income in the household. Another group is the students. Students aren't receiving as good of an education because many of the better teachers are leaving the profession. This would cause these students to be behind other students who were able to get a better education. Another group who is affected by this is the parents of the students. They might be faced with the decision to put their kids through a private school that they cannot afford. But if they don't, their kids might not be put in a good situation to succeed later on in life. Why hasn't anything been done? According to American Experiment, schools are spending money on benefits instead of salaries. These benefits are good, but if the state would spend more money on the schools, they could offer both. Along with this, society doesn't have much respect for teachers for whatever reason, so they can get away without paying them as much. There has been a push for performance-based incentives, like I mentioned earlier, which would pay teachers depending on how well their students perform. The teachers union opposes this because not all teachers get the opportunity to teach kids that want to learn. Kids who want to learn generally perform better in the classroom than kids who are only there because they have to be. So what can be done and who can make it happen? I am proposing that the state of South Carolina gives teachers a 5.5% bump in their salaries broken up over the course of 2 years. The state of South Carolina handles its own education. Like I mentioned earlier, Data Pandas showed that South Carolina ranked 36th in teacher salary, while World Population Review showed South Carolina as 26th in cost of living. This 5.5% bump would put South Carolina teachers at the same rank of teacher salary as the cost of living in the state. This would be a raise of about $5,500. According to InformedSC.org, there are a total of 53,577 teachers in South Carolina. The state of South Carolina would need to spend roughly $295 million, which comes out to about $147,336,740 a year over the span of the 2 years. This sounds like a lot, and it is, but according to the State of South Carolina Office of Comptroller General, the state of South Carolina had a $726 million surplus over the past fiscal year. This means they have plenty of money to make this happen. So who would enforce this policy? The federal government is the only power above the state that could do this. While they don't control the education within the state, they could cut funding to other areas if South Carolina does not comply. Also, it could be self-regulating. If education were to improve within the state, there would be extra incentive for people to move into the state of South Carolina, which would lead to more money. All of this doesn't matter if it doesn't help the problem of teachers leaving or teachers deciding not to become a teacher in the first place. So the next question is, will it help? The answer to that is yes. According to Forbes, the pay was a major reason why individuals chose not to become teachers. With this problem solved, we should see more teachers in the workforce. Some advantages of this policy would be more teachers in the workforce. This increases the quality of public education, which keeps kids in the public education system. This also leads to increased competition for jobs, which leads to better and more motivated teachers. I'm sure everybody has had a teacher that doesn't really care too much about their job because they will almost certainly have it the next year. This would solve that because there would be somebody ready to take their place if they don't improve. This also leads to happier and less stressed teachers. Going back to that Stanford study from before, it would definitely help teachers be less stressed about their finances and hopefully lower that 48% who were anxious about them. This would lead to better teacher retention and an overall better quality of education for students. To recap, teacher pay is a large point of contention within the profession, making both current and prospective teachers shy away from teaching because it doesn't pay enough or nearly as much as other jobs who require equal levels of education. This not only affects the teachers themselves, but their families, students, and parents. The students whose families can afford to send them to private school will have a much better schooling level than those whose families cannot afford private school. This creates an unfair advantage for kids whose parents are better off and can provide a better education. I am proposing a 5.5% bump in teacher salaries across the state to match the cost of living ranking that South Carolina holds compared to the other states. This would be broken up over the course of 2 years and would incentivize teachers to stay and new teachers to join the profession. This would solve the problem of teacher shortages and allow teachers to focus more on the actual teaching and not be as worried about their finances, leading to a better public education system.